Yep.
Hello and welcome to the Fall Start Fantasy Podcast. We need to cue the air horns because we made it to episode 20. Your favorite co-hosts, Josh and Cameron, are here to talk to you about the NFL playoffs and our AFC West Roundup. But first, Josh, how's my favorite co-host doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Finally had a day off this week. That's the reason why we're a little bit late this week is because I got called into work on Wednesday, so finally got a day off.
Yeah, apologize to all three of our regular listeners that we didn't have an episode on Wednesday, pushing it to Sunday because Josh had some extra work he needed to get done, and I had a pretty crazy week myself. So I'd rather have a good episode for you guys on Sunday than a rushed one on Wednesday. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into a little bit more recap on our playoff predictions. I was the only one who did not have the Chiefs winning Sunday, and Travis Kelsey, know your role, stay in your lane. What was it?
Shut your mouth. Know your place, you freaking jabroni.
No, Travis Kelsey was also calling me out there because I was not a believer in the Chiefs. He made sure I and the Bengals mayor or the Cincinnati mayor ate our words there because Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl and they're playing the Eagles. Josh, you were the only person to get that right, so congratulations there.
I gotta
It
say, is in
wasn't the
points
cleanest way you
wise.
got there, but you got there in the end.
I gotta say, is you guys had me in the first half, but came back.
Came
Oh,
back.
Malachi's too far ahead, so dang it.
Unfortunately, you, Billy, and Malachi all three have the Chiefs winning that game. So, right, that's pretty much the end of the playoff predictions. No matter who wins the game, Malachi is our playoff prediction champion.
Well, there is a chance. Did you pick the Bengals or Eagles?
I picked the Bengals.
Okay, never mind. Then yeah, Malachi wins.
Yep. Yeah, I guess if I picked the Eagles, then it would have been, or if you had picked the Eagles. But no, I thought the Bengals would be winning this year. I thought they were a perfect roster, perfect team, great everything there. But wasn't meant to be because Chiefs secondary really stepped up. I don't know if you had comments on the championship games, but I'll let you speak.
All I gotta say is a one-legged Mahomes is apparently better than Joe Burrow, which does not make sense. It was a good game. Yes, there was the problems with the refs. Fairly different argument. There's missed calls on both sides, and overall, good game. Happy we won it. And all
Yeah,
I gotta say, Cincinnati fans, is yeah, you guys deserve that one. You talk that much shit, you're gonna have to eat it eventually, and you guys ate it that time.
yeah, I am very glad that they did because that was very scary. I was at the game and it was pretty heated. I'm a little embarrassed by some of the Chiefs fans. They were a little, a little angry at just some of the fans who were just there to watch their team play. But it was also just a fantastic game and a great atmosphere at that. Even if it was cold, it was just a great scenario. And when the that third down had to be replayed, I, as well as the Chiefs fans and Bengals fans around me, were all just like, "What the hell are these refs doing? This is so not okay." And I know there's some people complaining about officiating. I literally don't care. I don't.
And for that third down, I will give the refs this. They were trying to stop the play, but the fans at Arrowhead were just that loud that you couldn't hear them.
Man, seriously though, credit to the Bengals offense though. I in the first half when the Bengals were not rolling out on offense or anything, the Bengals fans were pretty quiet. But when they started coming back and they started having a good time, they were loud on defense, and you couldn't hear, and that went all the way up to where my seat was.
I'll say
But Chiefs fans were a little bit louder. Chiefs fans were a lot louder.
even on TV, so just like when they're getting ready for like kickoffs and everything, you could even hear the Who Day chants.
Yeah, it
So
was
they were
great.
there and they were loud, just as loud as Chiefs Kingdom.
I heard a few "We Day" chants towards the end of that game, but. Did you have any comments on the Eagles 49ers game? I mean, I literally have almost nothing to say when the 49ers are on fourth and uh,
Um,
half of their third string quarterback. I I don't. It's not happening. You're not winning that game ever. So I don't really.
Maybe at this point, the 49ers should invest in a lot of bubble wrap and just wrap their quarterbacks in that. Maybe they will get injured less. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
Kyle
it's a tough
Shanahan
way to
had
go
comments in
there.
that post game interview where he was just like, "I know people are criticizing me for not doing a good job protecting my quarterbacks or something, but it was just, like then he went through every single one of the injuries, and he was just like, I don't know what I was supposed to do about that, but it sucks.
It's
We
just
didn't win, and that's really about it.
it's just very unfortunate for them. There's literally nothing you can do in most of those. Football is a physical sport. Shit happens. Literally the best way to put it. Um, Although I do like that bubble wrap idea. That might actually be a fun one.
Yeah, maybe, man, I hope they're healthy. I just drafted Trey Lance in our dynasty league, so I'm hoping Trey Lance is healthy and is good next year. Because if Brock Purdy is not a good quarterback, Trey Lance can do what he was doing this season. I promise you.
And then some.
Yes, please. But I think that's enough on the championship games. NFL draft order updated. Bengals will have the 28th pick because the Dolphins had to forfeit theirs. And then the Saints, who got this pick via the Broncos, via the 49ers, will be at the 30th or the 29th overall pick. So then the Eagles or Chiefs will be 30, and then the other one will be 31. Anything? Any comments on what's going to be? I mean, that's a really rough spot. I think, especially for the Saints to be at, because I think that's their first pick of the draft. Is that far down? That's not good. But
I say it's
it's
better than what they had before, so at least they have a first rounder now.
yeah. I'm sure they were hoping that would be a lot higher, but Kyle Shanahan led a good team and ended up 29th. Other side, Bengals, that deep, you're going to have a whole lot of options. And like we said when we went over the AFC North, probably releasing Joe Mixon. So, hey, maybe Bijan Robinson falls that far and you run the offense to him when you trade T. Higgins for a first round pick to the Bears or something. I don't know. It's a ton of options there. We'll see what happens.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah. That does it for our NFL draft order update and the playoff update. Moving on to the next segment, we talk about the Dynasty startup. We were actually able to get started going not Friday, but the Friday before that. So it's now been going for 9 days, and we're doing a slow draft. So we've gone through the first 17 rounds. And Josh, we were just talking about this before I hit the record button. You're feeling pretty good about your team, right?
Yes. Basically, right now my philosophy is who needs rookies when you can get vets who you know what they're going to do. Just in case those of you who are listening aren't aware, we're drafting kickers as placements for the rookie draft, and me and one other guy right now have yet to draft a single kicker.
Yeah, I think he just drafted. That was Vikings. I think he just drafted his first person. So I think it's just you now.
And all I gotta say is, fuck them rookies. I don't need them. Except for Deuce Vaughn. I need Deuce Vaughn.
Well, man, I just looked at a ranking of NFL prospects, and Deuce Vaughn was so low on there. I thought it was pretty insulting. They had him as something that's like the 20th best running back in the class, which is completely undraftable, of course. And I was like, that's insane for a guy who was all Big 12 every year that Bijan didn't win
Um,
it. Like,
so this is coming from a K State's fan's perspective, so bear this in mind. Like when Darren Sproles, when he was in the draft process, I want to say he was a third or fourth rounder, one of the two. I can't remember which one it was. Even though he was one of the best players in college, he was I think, finished fourth or fifth in the Heisman his last year in college. Really good player. draft him. See, it was small. And Deuce Vaughn is roughly the same size. So
Yeah,
even though
he's
the
a
league
small
has
guy.
even though the league has gotten better about drafting smaller players, I still always have that worry. However, I'm just going to say draft him. He's going to be able to hide behind any offensive line. They won't be able to find him until it's too late. Next thing you know, Deuce is loose.
Yeah,
Saw it
the
happen against that game in Alabama. They couldn't find him until it was too late.
Yeah, Deuce Vaughn is seriously an incredible athlete. Two of the things I'm looking for most when we get to the draft or the combine process is what is Deuce Vaughn's 40 time going to be, and what is Bryce Young's measurables? Because if he is not at least 6 foot, and like, I'm talking about Bryce Young now, if he's not at least 6 foot and he's not at least 200 pounds, I I cannot see him being franchise quarterback. It's just completely unheard of for a guy who's not that fast to be this guy. I mean, Kyler seriously struggles, and Russ seriously struggles when they cannot use their legs to be amazing, and Bryce Young can't do
Mm-hmm.
that. Now, he may be more accurate than every other person in this draft, but we'll get into that when we talk about the draft prospects. There's still a whole lot of scouting and information to get onto, but you're thinking, you're hoping maybe when the snake draft comes back around to you that it's gonna that you're gonna be able to pick up a third round pick. I think that's where the next pick is, third round pick, and maybe you can get Deuce Swan with it.
I'll think about it. I'll still see who's left available at that point because there's still a few people that I'm looking at. Um, I'll just kind of pick because, yeah, for the most part, I'm going to take right now people who I know what they're going to do over rookies. However, if someone picks up Deuce Vaughn, I will trade a future draft pick or two or three for him. Just heads up.
Good to know. I'll be making sure I hit that because I got a lot of picks personally. Um,
Too.
I traded up at the end of the 15th round just so that I could get my second running back I've taken so far this entire draft in Elijah Mitchell on the 49ers. So it's
It's a bold strategy because I got, let's see, I have one, two, three, four, five running backs compared to your two.
Yeah, that I'm gonna be hitting the running backs in the draft. There's a lot of running backs that I really like. I cannot wait for the landing spots they're gonna come up to, and we're talking about each team when we go through the divisional roundup. But there's a lot of good landing spots for running backs, and even teams like the Chargers and the Eagles who have a guy there already. There's no reason that they can't get another, and there's so many good running backs in this draft class. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting players, and so I'm hoping I'm going to use some of my rookie picks on those, and maybe I trade the. I don't know. I think I have like 9 wide receivers too, so maybe I make some trades there to get some running backs too. We'll see what it looks like, but I also have some problems with my quarterback situation because I'm running Kyler, Lance, and Jared Goff right now in a Superflex league. So definitely some injury risk there. But speaking of quarterbacks, first 10 quarterbacks off the board were Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Hurts, Herbert, Lawrence, Fields, Lamar, Kyler, Dak. What surprises you there?
If anything, the only one that would surprise me, and it doesn't surprise me much, is Herbert went ahead of Lawrence. Um, just seeing how much he's improved over just the course of this year alone. I figured a lot more people in with Lawrence than Herbert, but I've been wrong a lot of times before on that one. Justin Fields doesn't surprise me too much because a lot of people might think it was a fluke. He can't do much without an actual good receiver, and who knows what's going to happen there at this point. So it doesn't surprise me too.
Yeah, just looked it up. Trevor Lawrence was the QB 8 on the year, and so far, and obviously we can throw that first year, but Justin Herbert has been the QB 9, 2, and 11 this year. So it's an interesting debate there about Herbert versus Lawrence. I know you're not a Herbert truther, so you'd be taking Lawrence over them. I would take Herbert, but I don't know. Fields to me was really surprising because I think I would rather have Lamar, Kyler, or Dak over Fields. I just really worry that he'll get replaced in a year.
The biggest thing for me is with Fields, is he relied too much on running to get his points value. So
Yeah,
eventually he's going to get hurt. We kind of seen it happen now with Lamar. So eventually it's going to happen. This year he missed like what the last 4 games or something like that, or at least
something like
part of the
that.
time.
Yeah, Fields had something like 18 turnovers this year too, so it's just like your franchise QB isn't having 18 turnovers in a year, I guess, unless you're Dak Prescott. But
I will go
that's
to
why Dak went
Fields,
10th.
and I will give Fields this defense. He doesn't really have weapons. Cole Kmet was his best offensive weapon. So maybe they can give him some weapons this season. We'll see what happens. It'll be interesting though.
Yeah, no second round pick from them. That's definitely gonna hurt. And Chase Claypool was traded for now. What's gonna be the 32nd overall pick is just that's hurting. You hope he can take that step, and he actually just went in our draft, so be an interesting player to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, moving on. NFL coaching updates that happened last week. The Broncos hired Sean Payton to be their head coach, traded their first round pick. That's that pick that we were just talking about with the Saints. And the Texans hiring D'Amico Ryans as their head coaches. Any shockers there? Any interest?
Doesn't really surprise me for either one. I mean, D'Amico Ryans was a former Texan. I think he has one of the records for something. I can't remember that though.
Uh huh.
So it just kind of makes sense. Try to get the fan base back into it. Say, hey, you remember this guy? This really good guy? He's your coach now. And
Yeah.
Sean Payton to Broncos. I guess they got that Walmart money now, so might as well use it.
Yeah, exactly right. It's really going to be interesting to me how long Sean Payton stays with the Broncos because if Sean Payton goes and is a head coach for 5 years or something like that, that was a completely horrible, awful trade to lose your first round pick and just Sean Payton's like 5 years later, I'm done. Never mind. I don't want to do this. That's horrible. But if Sean Payton's your head coach for 10 plus years, a first round pick's not going to matter. You weren't going to use this to fix the Broncos anyways. Russ is too bad. He's getting paid way too much money for how terrible he is, and there's no way out of that contract. You're just going to suck for a few years. We'll get into that in the divisional roundup this week. I think it's a great hire from them. Sean Payton's a probably Hall of Fame head coach, so getting him is important.
Just see what he can do to turn around this team because they were just awful to watch unless they played the Chiefs. They were just awful to watch.
Yeah, yeah, honestly. Texas hiring D'Amico Ryans. I think that was a great hire. Defensive coordinator of the 49ers. 49ers defense, obviously amazing. Something that I am a big proponent of is that you have to be, as a head coach, you have to develop talent. You can't just be like, I need more first round picks. Please get me first round picks and these veteran players who are already good. You can't do that as a head coach, and you won't win games like that. Andy Reid and Bill Belichick are the two best coaches in the NFL right now because they develop consistent talent out of these later rounds, and they're putting guys like Joshua Williams and Jalen Watts or Justin Watson against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and winning a playoff game. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you got to be good at that, and D'Amico Ryans has been phenomenal on the 49ers at developing these guys and getting them to become really the next level players. I am very excited about this. I wanted them to hire Vic Fangio for the exact same reason that D'Amico Ryans is a great hire, defensive mind, and really going to be able to do something. I think he'll get to pick whatever quarterback he wants, and Texans are going to have an interesting offseason. We went over in the divisional roundup, like what the AFC South is going on with, and Texans, they got a lot of money to spend. They're going to spend it.
As long as they stick with their coach this time for more than a year, I think they'll be fine. They just need to stick with someone for at least 3 years. Give them a chance to start developing something, see how it goes. But I think D'Amico Ryans will turn them back around, and who knows, they might be back in the playoffs here soon.
Yeah, well, we'll go ahead and move on then to our divisional roundup. And we were just talking about Sean Payton. So, Josh, you want to start us off by talking about the Broncos this year?
Yeah, so I get the fortunate ability to talk about the donkeys. For those of you who are not aware, Chiefs fans, we usually refer to them as donkeys. I As you gotta throw shade at your divisional rival somehow. So head coach wise, Payton was just hired this week, so that has been updated. Probably a good thing we decided to do this episode a little bit later on that one, just for that fact. They haven't found an offensive coordinator yet, to my knowledge, anyways. So that won't be interesting to see who they hire. I don't know offensive minds off the top of my head who are at least in the interview process or anything like that. So keep an eye open on that one, see what happens, and then hopefully it'll be a good one for them. Because as much as I love it, it's getting old just beating them every single year without it being too competitive. But the offense, looking at it last year, numbers wise, like in terms of yardage, they weren't awful. They were 21st in total yards, so low average still, but not abysmal. 19th in passing with 3,592. 21st in rushing with 1,935. Weren't abysmal, but they weren't good either. Touchdowns is where they were hurting the most. They were 23rd in total passing touchdowns with 18, 28th in rushing with 11, and I wanted to say they were 30th or 32nd, one of the two. I got to write it down on the script here, so
In
apologies on
total
that one, but
touchdowns?
they were bottom three at least.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was pretty bad. Um, they were able to move the ball some. They just couldn't score points. So if they can get into the end zone, find some way to get into the end zone, they actually would have been a lot better of a team because they had a top tier defense. Um, didn't do the best on pressuring the quarterback. They were only 23rd with 36 sacks. So again, low average, but not abysmal. Turnovers, they were above average. They were 14th overall with 23 turnovers, 15 of them being interceptions. And yards is where they shine. They had the eighth best defense in terms of yardage allowed, 5,540 total. 13th when it came to the passing game with 3,574, and 10th for rushing with 1,866. They were also pretty good at keeping their opponents out of the end zone. They were fifth in terms of passing touchdowns. They only allowed 20, and 10th in rushing when they only allowed 12. So overall, a very solid defense. They weren't like a big play defense for the most part. They were, again, middle of the pack when it came to turnovers, and they were below average when it came to sacks, but just could not move against these guys at all. You see it a lot with a lot of other teams. Chiefs were really the only team that was able to consistently move against them when Mahomes wasn't throwing 4 picks a game against them. But defense, offense, a little bit better than it actually was, but that's just simply because they couldn't score touchdowns. Looking at the offseason preview, they have just under 12 million cap space by only like 60,000 or so or something like that. So I'm just gonna say 12 million to call it simple. Little free agents gonna hurt them quite a bit. Calvin Anderson, Billy Turner, Tom Compton, Dalton Reisner, Aaron Fleming. Those guys are all offensive line that were at least in the rotation, if not starters, to begin the season. Jackson, one of their better defenders. They probably want him back. Mike Boone, Andrew Beck, Latavius Murray, Marlon Mack, and Brett Ripon. They're losing their fullback and 3 of their depth pieces when it comes to running back. So I think right now it's like only Javonte Williams and whoever they have on the practice squad that's left at running back. And Brett Ripon, you probably want to get some kind of backup QB. If Russ doesn't work out, you might have to turn to them. So we draft a late round one or mid round one. I don't know, but the biggest thing for them right now is you have to address that O line. Again, you're losing potentially 5, so you need to find some way to replace it. However, their draft situation not that good. Um, those of you who like a lot of draft picks, just shy away from this one because this one's going to get very ugly. First pick is in the 3rd round. They do have 2 third-round picks. They have a 4th, they have a 5th, a 6th, and a 7th. So, yeah, kind of hard to rebuild when, 1, you don't have money. 2, you have very little draft capital. But you do have Sean Payton now. People might want to go play for him. So Wilson's name, I think a lot of people still have necessarily a negative opinion of him unless you're maybe a Broncos player, former Broncos player from the season. But it'll be interesting to see what they do. Definitely need to address that O line. Need to address the running back. Defense, at least your starters and most of your depth pieces are still remaining, so you don't have to worry about that one too much. Maybe a safety. See if you can find a cheap, maybe whether it be in free agency or the draft, and back up to Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I think because they're so expensive on with Russell Wilson and a number of their players, you're probably gonna have to sign some not very good veterans all on your offensive line, guys that really shouldn't be starters, but they're gonna end up having to be starters for the Broncos because just you're not gonna run out there with five rookies on your offensive line. That would just go absolutely terrible for you. And then, yeah, Latavius Murray actually looked really good at the end of the season. He was having good yards per attempt, despite a bad offensive line. And I, I know their offensive coordinator is currently Justin Outen. He, I thought, designed a pretty good offense for Russell Wilson. It was just Russ is so bad. We'll see if Sean Payton keeps him and their defensive coordinator, Ejiro Evero, who's obviously did a fantastic job this year, but will be kind of interesting. I don't have any real complaints about the Broncos coaching staff. Is just Russell Wilson was so terrible that the defense was on the field longer than they or more often than they should have been. Offense was not very good altogether, and it's just not a good situation to be in. But we'll see
Yeah,
what Sean Payton
no,
does. If I was going to bet on anyone turning him around, it would be that coach. So
be up there at least.
yeah.
Hey, maybe the games will finally get competitive between the Donkeys and the Chiefs again.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be anytime soon, but maybe in the next couple of years. A team that is competitive with the Chiefs and actively, I'd say though they didn't beat us this year, is the Chargers, which is the next team that is on our list in the divisional roundup. So head coach Brandon Staley, they did fire their offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi this offseason. Thank God, I hated how he was limiting Justin Herbert, and they just did not have the personnel for the offense he was running. Sounds like a lot like their defense, if you ask me. But they hired offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. Big problem with the Dallas Cowboys this year, and why they took such a massive step back offensively from the year before was that Dak Prescott was in a full Kellen Moore offense, meaning that Kellen Moore was saying, you need to run this extremely complicated offense that is going to have all these extra plays. There's going to be a lot of scanning the field, picking the exact perfect time, and throwing the perfect ball. There were a lot of really tight windows and really tough throws that he was making Dak throw, and Dak is not Aaron Rodgers. He's Dak Prescott. And someone who could be Aaron Rodgers is possibly Justin Herbert. I think he could have a massive resurgence with under Kellen Moore. I hope to see that offense get a lot better this year, but it's going to be a big deal on what the rookies in this offseason is going to look like because right now they are $22 million over the cap in cap space, meaning they need to make some serious changes. And Chargers fans, please don't hate me when I say this. I love the guy for a long time, but you're going to have to release Keenan Allen this year because by releasing him, you can save $14.8 million, which gets you most of the way there already towards being back under the cap, meaning you can sign some free agents. After that, you can restructure a couple contracts like Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, these older defensive players that, hey, we're going to push your money back a little bit. Hope you'll be all right with that because that gives you some money to sign a few free agents. Now, Chargers, even after doing all that, even after restructuring guys like Mike Williams, J.C. Jackson, and um, Derwin James, it's not going to put you in the best situation. Cap space, you're not going to be able to get the biggest free agents, but you'll be able to get a couple guys that I hope, would be able to run the offense better or be on the offense better for the Chargers. And a couple guys that I had in mind for that were Dan Arnold or Hayden Hurst if you're looking for a more expensive tight end. Dan Arnold from the Jaguars, Hayden Hurst from the Bengals. These are better tight ends than just nobodies. They are good at receiving and blocking, and I think the Chargers have really struggled with the tight end position there. And then on the wide receiver side, you're going to have to go into the draft. It's their first round pick. I think it's going to be like what the Packers did this year. Where it's like you have to get a first round wide receiver, and if you don't, you are going to look like the Packers offense did this year because when you cut this version of Keenan Allen, who's just not worth the money anymore, and Mike Williams cannot stay healthy, you're going to really struggle. After that, guys like Demarcus Robinson and Cam Sims are both faster wide receivers that I hope to see them sign or at least get players who are of a similar tier. These players who really weren't ever great wide receivers, and none of these players I say are going to be that exciting to Chargers fans. It's going to be guys that are going to fit your roles, and you're going to have to develop a little bit more and turn into good players. But I think I like Brandon Staley. I think he can do that. I think he's a fine head coach, so I do have faith for them there. Cam Sims is another wide receiver I was thinking they would bring in. Then on the running back side, there's a lot of free agent running backs this year, which means that and there's also a super deep running back class. If you ask me what is the perfect scenario, like where should Deuce Vaughn go, my mind is instantly to the Chargers because Deuce Vaughn is a goal line back. He's a three down back. He is a pass catcher, fast, hits the holes. Everything the Chargers uses Austin Eckler for, Deuce Vaughn can do that. So I really like him as a fit there. I don't know if they'll do that. We'll see what happens with the draft, but some free agents that I think would be really interesting, guys who complement their guy Austin Eckler. James Robinson, Jamal Williams, Justin Jackson. I know I can't believe I just said two Detroit running backs, Jamal Williams and Justin Jackson, but they're both free agents, and I think they could complement him. Jamal Williams is a goal line back that could be absolutely amazing, and James Robinson, when he had his chance on the Jaguars just a few years ago, was a fantastic guy. These guys could complement Eckler really well, and that I think is everything I had for the Chargers. I don't love their defense coordinator, Ronaldo Hill. They run a lot of too high safeties looks, which puts a lot of stress on their defensive line to do both the run blocking and the pass rush. I don't think they really have the linebackers for that, so you really need to probably look to boost up that defensive line with some veterans like Puna Ford, Team Hicks, Dwayne Smoot from the Jaguars. These guys that are a little bit older, but you hope to have work out for them. But if not, you're just going to have to look towards the draft to fill a lot of the holes on the offense. But on the good side, they have the quarterback. They have at least two great edge rushers in Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, a great safety, and a great offensive line. So I have hopes for the Chargers. I don't think I'll ever be picking them to win the AFC West again, at least in the Patrick Mahomes era. So I won't be taking them that, but I think they'll have an interesting offseason. They have a sneaky good team, and if they make these moves that I suggest, they will have the cap space to go get a few guys that interest them. And no, it probably won't be Dan Arnold or Foster Moreau, another guy, Justin Jackson, like these guys that I'm listing. That probably won't be them who they sign, but it'll be guys who form a similar role for them. And yeah, that is my roundup for the Chargers. I think the next team that we had on here was the Kansas City Chiefs, about to be the next Super Bowl winners. So, Josh, I'll throw this one back to you.
So I will add a quick comment about the Chargers real quick. I've kept Brandon Staley. I know you like him. I hate him. I'm just going to put that there. I had to get that hate in there. But yes, going back to the Chiefs. Coach, Big Red, Andy Reid. The legend, the double cheeseburger eater. Gotta love him. Offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy. He's still the offensive coordinator. He has not yet found a head coaching job. I hope he does, but does not look like it once again. But the offense he led, no one expected this year. No one at all. Not even I did. Did not expect them to be this good. He's just keep doing what they do with Mahomes. They were first in total yards, 7,032. I'm just now realizing this counts the playoff stats as well, but what are you going to do about that? These are the numbers I had. They're also first in passing with a little bit over 5,000, 5,062, and 1,970 in rushing, which puts them at 20th. And they weren't just good at moving the ball, they were also good at scoring with it. They were first with 41 touchdowns in passing and seventh with 18 rushing touchdowns for 61 total touchdowns, which also was once again first place for them. In the defense, it was interesting. Steve Spagnuolo is still the defensive coordinator. He's done a good job. And they were hit or miss depending on what you're talking about. So, for starters, the strength of this defense pass rush. They were second in sacks in the entire league with 55 total, only behind the team they're getting ready to face, the Eagles. They're 16th in turnover, so right there in the middle. They had 20 overall with 11 interceptions. So they're more of a big play type of defense than a consistent one, kind of like what we had with the Broncos, but still pretty good. Yardage wise, they were 12th total, which was better than what I actually thought they were. 19th in passing, they allowed 5,579, and 8th in rushing with 1,823, which was the biggest surprise to me because here's the way you beat the Chiefs: you run on them. Now you actually have to throw on them. You have a young secondary, so try to take advantage of that if you can. But like what you were mentioning earlier, they stepped up on the big game on Sunday and damn good job. Um, Touchdowns though is where they were definitely hot or cold. They're dead last in passing touchdowns allowed. They allowed 33 on the season. They were fourth when it came to rushing touchdowns, with allowing only 10. So very hot or cold, hit or miss when it comes to the defense. Looking at the off season, they have just a little bit over 11 million in cap space as it stands right now. And here's where things get scary as a Chiefs fan a little bit. Little free agents that they have: Orlando Brown, Drew Smith Schuster, Carlos Dunlap, Derek Nottie, Andrew Wiley, Chad Henne, Jarek McKinnon, Cole Hardman, Thornhill, Tommy Townsend, and Nick Allegretti. So you have three O linemen there. Again, kind of scary that we're losing them. Maybe see if we can keep Orlando Brown, whether it have to be an actual contract or once again go franchise tag. To do, but I think we should keep him. Not sure 100% what the offensive line agent landscape is looking like right now, but he's still a pretty big name, so someone I would like us to keep if we can. We have, and then of course you have Andrew Wiley, Nick Allegretti. Not the best offensive linemen, but they're serviceable and they're good depth pieces, so maybe sign them to a cheaper deal if you can. However, they are getting older, so that usually means more money, so maybe try to keep at least one of them if we can. The two receivers, I actually like Juju for this offense. He provides a niche. He provides kind of like another version of Kelsey, just slightly faster when he has a good knee, anyways. If we could keep him, I would like that, but do what we need to do. If he costs too much money, then I buy Juju. And the other one is Nicole Hardman. This one, I don't know how I feel. We do need a speed. At the same time, he hasn't performed nearly as well as we had hoped, so maybe see if you can sign him for cheap, kind of give him maybe like a 1 year prove it. Otherwise, let him go.
Yeah, we've seen
Uh,
4 years of Mecole, and every year of those has been prove it, Mecole, prove it, and he hasn't. It sucks. This last year he was injured because it really could have been an opportunity for him, but
might give him a 1 year prove it, but at this point, I wouldn't count on it. D line, Carlos Dunlap, that would actually be a pretty big loss. He played really well for us this year. Kind of gives you that big vet, old time vet presence there as well. So that'd be nice if we could keep him. Eric Nottie, I really want us to keep him. He has performed big for us over the course of the season. So he's probably outside of Orlando Bloom, thinking the actor, Orlando Brown, one I want to keep the most. Yeah, I was thinking the wrong Orlando.
Yeah, I can
Or
tell. Watching some
I
Pirates of the
think
Caribbean right now, or what's going on?
the rings.
Lord of the Rings, that's it. I knew it.
I love my Legolas, but Orlando Brown and Derek Nottie are the two that I want us to keep the most if we can. QB wise, we're losing Chad Henne. He's old. Let him go at this point. See who we can get. Maybe get a late round QB.
We
Just
have
get someone that's a
Shane
free agent.
Buechele, who actually had a decent preseason. I think that'd probably be who we'd keep as a
He
backup
was on
there.
the free. Remember correctly, he was on the free agent list, and I just forgot to write him down.
Hey, he's not that big a loss, whether or not he does stay with the team. I think he's practice squad, so.
Either way, we just need to have a backup, whether it be someone younger or that's a journeyman. We need to get some kind of backup QB. However, Chad Henne, he's getting old, so it might be time to let him go. Tommy Townsend, love the hair. Kind of do need a punter, even with an offense as good as ours. Every now and then we do have to punt. So see if we can re-sign him. If not, then try our hands at the next rookie punter that we can find. And on Thornhill is someone else I do want us to keep. He's not the best, but he is pretty solid. So
Yeah,
see if
he's
we can get him.
fast, and I think he's a good leader, at least on that defense. Can't really speak to what he's like in the locker room or anything like that, but I know that the team looks better with him out there. But it's a really young secondary, and that really worries me. So maybe keeping him would be awesome, but he also could cost a lot.
And the last one to talk about is Jarek McKinnon. Getting to that point where he's getting older, we could probably re-sign him for cheap, but at the same time, I like how you're saying how Deuce Vaughn would be a good Austin Eckler replacement. I also think he'd be a very good Eric McKinnon replacement. Oh, my dream pick for the Chiefs is getting Deuce Vaughn, K State guy to KC. Gives me even more reason why to love him. And again, he kind of has that same skill set, maybe not as explosive as Jarek McKinnon, but definitely a lot tough in my opinion. So he's, see, just get Deuce Vaughn. That's all I want.
Yeah, I love Deuce Vaughn as well. You know I do. I also really like the running back on Texas A&M, who runs like a 4.2 or something like that. That could be another player who's just stupid fast. Could be a good because the role of Jack McKinnon is to be our third down back. Pacheco first, second, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, whatever we want to do with him. I don't dislike the player, but it's just he
Give him
has
for
a
one
bit.
more year, and goodbye.
Yeah, it was probably be his last year on the team.
He does something amazing next season.
Yeah, I don't think we'd be picking up his fifth year option, which is a interesting question for a lot of these teams whether or not they should pick up fifth year options for some of these players. Maybe we should have been bringing that up. I know that I well, you said you want to bring back Orlando Brown. Are you thinking franchise tag or are you thinking a long term deal with him?
If we can get a long-term deal, that would be ideal. When you're looking at the landscape of tackles, he's at least top. I wouldn't say top tier like elite, but he's still above average, which is what you need for Mahomes to kind of protect him. You can always take your shots in the draft, and so far we've done pretty good with our O line draft spots. But unless you feel confident you can get one of those guys, just re-sign him. I don't care how long the deal happens to be. It could be 3 year, it could be 5 year. See if you can get him cheap for the first year, and then maybe increase the price a little bit. Go from there, but just do whatever we can to keep him. At least in my opinion, we need that strong O line that we had.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the tackles much. I have absolutely no idea who's good. I know that Ohio State has a offensive tackle, and I think it's Northwestern has a tackle who's supposed to be pretty good. I just know that they're supposed to be first round picks. I don't know about really anyone else. Um, if there's a tackle who's going to be down at the 31st pick that we could get, that'd be awesome. But I don't know. It teams like the Texans, they have the second overall pick and the 12th overall pick. Now, I I think we could trade up to get a top tier tackle or from the Texans. I don't think they would reject our first this year and the first next year because it's a big hole for us. I mean, we traded our first last year. I guess not last year. 2021 first for Orlando Brown. He had a good year, and then he had a really bad year this year. But it's just a hard position to fill.
So I went ahead and looked at some notable, at least tackles that are going to be free agents. Um, you better re-sign this guy.
Yeah, that's what I
Um,
understand as
next,
well.
next best one, at least if you're looking at left tackle, is old face for Kansas City fans, Eric Fisher, our former first overall pick in 2012.
Yeah, I don't. I think he's retiring. I don't. I see no reason why he would come back.
If you look at right tackle, it doesn't get much better. Um, George Fant is going to be 31 by the time the season starts.
Yeah, or Mike McGlinchey on the 49ers, who's had a rough year.
It
It's not.
doesn't look
It's not.
great.
No, getting a franchise tackle is almost impossible. So we'll see what we actually end up doing. I would personally like to see us trade up to get a tackle. I don't want us to just miss out on a top tier tackle because I look at teams like the Vikings with is it Vera Tucker? What is the Vikings tackle?
Oh,
No, Vera Tucker's on the Jets. Slater is the Chargers. Christian Darrisaw, is that it? Darrisaw? Yeah, Christian Darrisaw. And I look at these young offensive tackles. Evan Neal, one on the Giants. I know that he didn't have the best year. The Seahawks got. Why can I not think of any players' names right now? I should
so
really.
he performed well. I know that much. I can't think of his name. It starts with a C though. I think
Charles Cross? Is that it? Some Cross?
Cross.
Yeah, Charles
Cross.
Cross. Charles Cross. Um, on the Seahawks, there were so many top tier tackles that just would have been so awesome for the Chiefs to have had this year. Instead, we had Andrew Wiley and Orlando Brown letting so many pressures onto Mahomes. I would like to see us straight up to get a tackle personally. And then the last player I want to ask about to you, well, two players. First one's Frank Clark. Cutting him would save $21 million in cap space. We cannot restructure his contract because this is the last year of it. Do we cut him?
Mm,
We wouldn't have him, but it would save $21 million. And the other option is he gets paid $30 million this year, which is more than Chris Jones for the record.
could probably. We have a good pass rushers. We have George Karlaftis has really improved over the end of the season. Um, hurts to say, yeah, we probably could cut him and use that money elsewhere. We have a lot of picks in the draft. Chiefs have 11 of them, and maybe more if Bieniemy can actually get a head coaching job. So looking at that, we could easily use one of those picks, get a top tier edge rusher, maybe in the middle rounds, find one, and they work out pretty well, hopefully. So we could do that. It hurts to say it, but yeah, Frank Clark, he's done well, especially in the bigger games for us. Sometimes just gotta leave those really expensive players and just let them go.
Well, we could talk about the Chiefs all night if we wanted to, but we need to move on to the last team we have in the division. And if you ask me, I think that the Raiders actually are going to have the most interesting offseason of any team in the AFC West because right now the other three teams are all stuck with the quarterback that they have, and they are giving all of their money already away. Like, we know the Broncos don't have any money. We know the Chargers can free up some money if they make some perfect moves that they probably won't be making, to be honest. And we know the Chiefs currently have some money, but with so many free agents that they're probably going to want to re-sign, it probably won't happen for the Chiefs to re-sign all those guys. So it's or to sign any free agents. So the team that's really going to be the most interesting is the Raiders to me, and Their head coach is Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator Mike Lombardi, defensive coordinator Patrick Graham. The offense was fantastic at running the ball this year. Really good job by the offensive coordinator and head coach there. And then the defense was just not really. It's Max Crosby and then no one else who can get to the quarterback. And then a lot of secondary players who are really young and just not really taking that step that they need to be taking already. You really worry about some of the coaching there. Maybe it's the first year under the new head coach. Maybe it's the fact that they're playing in the AFC, specifically AFC West, where there's obviously good quarterbacks, and so it's really uh, tough for them. But the Raiders really need to figure out something to fix on their defense, and then the biggest thing is their offensive line. I think they're really struggling with the players that they have there currently. I know that they just re-signed their center. I think it was last year to an extension, but I'm not super impressed with Andre James. If they released him this year, they'd save $5 million, and I think that is probably a move that they're going to be making. But I'll go ahead and talk about the Raiders here because one thing that they do have going for them that is super awesome is their weapons for their quarterback are great. Josh Jacobs had a career year, and Devontae Adams was wide receiver 2 in fantasy this year. Like, those two, and Darren Waller, when he's healthy, those three can be a fantastic system for you. Hunter Renfrow, turns out he's not the guy that we thought he was going to be after this last year, but um, there's definitely a good situation there for a quarterback to come into and to figure out. And when you can lean on the run game like they did this year, it's really going to help your quarterback situation. Now, I've talked to a couple of Raiders fans, and I'm getting mixed results about this plan that I at least theorized to come up with. I don't know what they actually think about this, but Derek Carr is going to be traded away. Now, he does not want to be traded away because the team didn't treat him very well, so he doesn't actually care about getting good value for his old team. He wants a new team to be better. So if he gets traded to a team that is just uh, yeah, a team like the Texans or whatever, he's not caring about what the compensation for him is. He wants to be on a team that he can actually have a good role for. And a team that I like is the Falcons for him. I think Derek Carr does well when he has the run game and the play action open up for him, and he can have those deep passers. Drake London and Kyle Pitts are both guys that can catch anything. So I kind of like that fit for him, and I think the Falcons can be on the up and up, especially with being in such a horrible NFC South division. I think the Falcons could be a pretty good team. So I have Derek Carr getting traded to the Falcons for a first round pick, this year's first round pick, and Desmond Ridder. Now, I'm not going to talk about the scenario for the Falcons in that, but Desmond Ridder was a serviceable quarterback towards the end of the season, and we also got to see Jared Stidham be a decent quarterback for them in the last 2 games that he played. I don't think you can go into the season and be like Stidham's our guy because you're just going to go 2-15 in the AFC West because the AFC is insane and the AFC West is insane. You would do terrible. But if you put some competition with Desmond Ridder, you go get a day 2 QB. I'm looking at some of the guys that. It's a pretty interesting quarterback class. I think there's 4 first round picks, but then you've got guys like Endon Hooker and Tanner McGee that's out of Tennessee and Syracuse that are going to be day 2 picks that could be pretty interesting quarterback prospects. And I don't see anything wrong with having Ritter, Stidham, and McKee all compete for the starting position on the Raiders and giving yourself another year. Seeing what you can do with the quarterback position, seeing if you can use these fantastic weapons that you have here to develop a quarterback that could be the next Dak Prescott, a value pick guy that is going to be good for your team. And Raiders are going to have a lot of money. They can, after trading Derek Carr, it'll save them like $28 million in cap space, and so. You can re-sign Josh Jacobs, give him an Aaron Jones level deal of 3 4 years on, $10 million a year deal. That'll be great for Josh Jacobs, and it'll be great for the Raiders. good part of the team. Um, Defensive line, the Eagles. I don't know if anyone else has looked at this, but the Eagles are losing 6 starters on their defensive line. Brandon Graham, Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, Robert Quinn, uh, Joseph, and Ngamakasu are all going to be free agents after this year, unrestricted free agents, and they're going to be looking to make a bag of money after going to the Super Bowl this year. Hey, we went and got our awards. We won the NFC. We lost to the Chiefs. Let's just go get hella money. Raiders are going to have hella money, and they're going to want you there because Max Crosby can't do it all. And clearly, Chandler Jones has lost a step entirely. So I think they can sign one or two of those guys. They can trade to the Saints. They're in cap hell. Andrews Pete and Eric McCoy, two higher paid offensive line players on the Saints that could be traded for. And then Jesse Bates and Jordan Poyer. I'm looking at players to join the Raiders who I want players who hate the Chiefs. If I am the Raiders general manager, I need to beat the Chiefs or else I'm going to be fired in the next few years. And I want players who want to kill Chiefs players. And at the safety position, two fantastic top level safeties, Jesse Bates and Jordan Poyer, happen to fit both the hey, I want to kill Chiefs and I am an elite talent that you'll be wanting signed because hey, Jesse Bates, I want you to come in here and play the Chiefs twice a year. Thank God, yes, I'll take that deal. Bengals weren't going to let me do that. And Jordan Poyer, hey, I know they beat the Bills. Man, it'd just be awesome if you got to come here and just beat up on the Chiefs player. Yeah, that'd be awesome. It's just, I maybe I'm thinking too much about it right now, but there's just I see so many players here that are going to just want to beat the Chiefs. If the Chiefs beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl, all those defensive linemen that I just talked about are going to want to come in here and beat up on Patrick Mahomes. These safeties are going to want to pick him off. Like, you got to fight hard to beat the Chiefs. These are players who are going to want to fight hard to do that.
Yeah, you said it best for the AFC West, and this goes for the other 3 teams outside of the Chiefs. Ultimate goal is beating the Chiefs right now. Chiefs have had the AFC West's number since pretty much Reed got there outside Denver for the first few years. Um, Mahomes has lost like what 5 games against AFC West opponents,
I,
something
I
like that.
I don't think it's very many. I know he hasn't lost in an opposing stadium yet.
He hasn't lost to Denver yet. Right now, the key for these teams is, I mean, like I remember a few years ago,
He's
Chiefs
27 to
really
3.
started.
27 to 3.
That's worse for them than I thought it was.
Lost to the
Like
Chargers once and the Raiders. Oh, sorry, Chargers twice and the Raiders once.
in like the way you can win and get yourself a playoff spot and maybe eventually go to the big game itself is gear up to beat the AFC West. Now
Yeah.
they've been trying. I will give them this. They have tried different ways to beat the Chiefs. Stock up on defense. Mahomes is still throwing for 5,000 yards on you. Let's try to match him offense for offense, and you still lose. So you got to keep trying. Maybe try a combo, get some good defensive players, get some good offensive players. You just got to beat the Chiefs at this point. They can beat the Chiefs at least once a year, get that consistent level. They have a shot to make it farther. And who knows, eventually they might get lucky and beat my Chiefs team, which I hope never happens.
Yeah, but that's my plan for the Raiders. Did you have any comments on that? I know that was kind of like my most thought out one this year. I'll have to ask my Raiders friends um, what they think about that move for the Raiders, but I know that it's going to be an interesting team off season for that team. Also restructure guys like Max Crosby's contract. Um, it's like there's other moves that can be made on that team, of course, but um, there's going to be a lot of money for the Raiders, and I think they're also in a hey, we want to win now position. But they're actually set up not too bad in the future. They don't have any serious contract commitments that they're in, other than the Chandler Jones one is bad. They're not out of that for another 2 years. He's 33 now, and is I don't think he had a single sack all year, despite being
I
on
don't know why.
despite being
Completely
on pass
forgot he.
rushing for like every single play. Um,
I completely forgot he was with the Raiders until you said that not too long ago. So it's like,
yeah, no,
oh,
Chandler Jones. If it wasn't for how bad Russell Wilson's contract and his signing was, everyone would be talking about how terrible the Chandler Jones contract is for the Raiders because he's 33 years old and he has 3 more years left on this, or it was a 3 year contract. Like, and it's insane. It's like 80 something million dollars. Like,
jeez.
yeah, it's really bad. And if they cut him this year, it's $25 million in dead cap. Like, it's is horrible.
Yikes.
Year after that, if they cut it, it's only 7 mil in dead cap. So it's just like it's really
For one
bad.
more year. For
It's
one
really bad.
more year.
Yeah, yeah, for 1 year. Like, so there were some bad contracts handed out this season. J.C. Jackson, Chandler Jones, and Russell Wilson, I think, are leading that in the AFC West. And thank God Orlando Brown did not sign that first contract we offered him because we'd be putting him right up there with the others as a horrible contract to have. But I think that does it
Yeah.
for the AFC West. I can't really think of anything. Did you have anything else you want to talk about in the divisional roundup?
Um, I also don't like Josh McDaniels. I'm sorry.
No, me neither.
I think he's overrated as hell for a
Yeah.
coach. Raiders should have fired him. I'm not going to lie. They should have kept the guy that they had as the interim coach at the end of last season. But I don't make decisions like that. I'm just a fan. So I guess I don't know more or anything about this. But I don't like Josh McDaniels. They probably should have gotten rid of him.
Yeah, they won't. I think they give him this year at least. And to be honest, they won't do any of the moves I said. They're not going to be trading Derek Carr for a third round pick, Desmond Ritter, in a first. They'll probably be reaching out to some of the veteran quarterbacks, seeing maybe, hey, can we get Aaron Rodgers over here? And what'll probably end up happening is Jacoby Brissett or Jimmy Garoppolo, and guys who would need to come in and save Josh McDaniels' job. But
Mhm.
I don't think they can pay. If I remember right, they're also like in financial trouble, and so like they can't just have two head coaches on their payroll because I think they're still paying their last head coach. So
Yep.
we'll
Seas.
we'll see what they do. So they may have to ride out McDaniel's contract no matter how good he is. So. Well, I think that does it for this week's episode. Josh, did you have anything else before we close out?
Go Chiefs and time to shoot some birds down.
Go Chiefs. Definitely a longer episode. We'll be moving on to the NFC next week. Josh, which NFC division do you want to start with?
Let's say hold off on the East just in case the Eagles win. That's gonna be one will be a little bit fresh.
You want to start in the North?
Let's start. Yeah, let's go north. We started. Let's go north.
All right. All right. We'll be going on to NFC North next week. Cannot wait for Josh and I to decide who gets the Bears and who gets the Packers. But in the meantime, follow us on Twitter at FallstartFPod to look at our terrible memes and fantasy football takes. And thank you from the Fall Start Squad. We didn't expect to get 20 episodes. We honestly expected like 8. I believe originally we booked 4 episodes, Josh, and then we kind of were like, do we want to do this more? And we're like, yeah. Was it 4?
Or eight, one of those two numbers.
4 or 8? Yeah, it was not many. And hey, we're at 20 episodes, and honestly, we just keep doing it because it's a blast. But So, thank you from the Fall Start Fantasy Squad. Be on the lookout for our next episode so you can be ready before the ball is snapped. Thank you and goodbye.